The ninth inning had barely begun. And already, something felt wrong. Dodger Stadium was electric, the kind of atmosphere that builds across 8 innings of tight, grinding baseball and then compresses itself into something almost unbearable by the time the final 3 outs come into view. The crowd knew what was at stake. The players knew. The cameras knew. And then the Marlins ace stepped onto the mound. What happened next was not supposed to happen. Not here. Not against this lineup. Not against him. 3 plays. 3 moments. Each one more brutal than the last. Each one landing on Shohei Ohtani with a precision that silenced sections of that stadium one by one, like lights being switched off in a building that was supposed to stay lit all night. But it was what happened after the 3rd play that nobody saw coming. Freddie Freeman didn't wait for the inning to end. He didn't wait for the dugout. He didn't wait for a camera to find him or a microphone to be placed in front of him. He reacted instantly. Right there on the field. In full view of everyone watching. And in that moment, Freeman said more about what those 3 plays meant than any post-game press conference ever could. This is the story of what happened in that 9th inning. What those 3 brutal plays reveal about the Marlins ace nobody is talking about enough. What Freeman's instant reaction tells us about the state of this Dodgers team. And why this moment may matter far more than the final score suggests. Before we get to those 3 plays, we have to understand who threw them. Because that is the part of this story that the highlights don't tell you. The Marlins have existed in a strange space in baseball consciousness for years now. A franchise that flashes brilliance and then retreats. A team that produces pitching talent with remarkable consistency and then watches that talent leave or be traded before the wider baseball world fully appreciates what it had. Miami has become, in many ways, a factory for arms that other teams eventually celebrate. But their ace has remained. And quietly, patiently, without the fanfare that players of his caliber typically receive, he has been building toward exactly this kind of moment. His preparation going into this game was meticulous. Those who follow the Marlins closely will tell you that he is not a pitcher who arrives at a start hoping things work out. He is a pitcher who arrives having already lived through every scenario in his mind, every count, every situation, every batter he will face, already processed and filed away before his cleats ever touched the dirt of the mound. What he did to Ohtani in that 9th inning was not improvisation. It was execution. The kind that only comes from preparation so thorough it becomes instinct. And Ohtani, one of the most prepared, most studied, most analytically sophisticated players in the sport, walked into all 3 of them. The first play didn't look brutal at first glance. That's what made it so effective. Coming into the 9th inning, the scouting report on Ohtani as a batter is one of the most studied documents in opposing pitching staffs across both leagues. His launch angle tendencies, his zone preferences, his historical performance against specific pitch types at specific counts, all of it is known, catalogued, and debated before every single at-bat. The Marlins ace knew this. More importantly, he knew that Ohtani knew this about himself. He understood that facing a pitcher as analytically aware as Ohtani means the chess match begins before the first pitch is thrown. So he threw the first pitch that Ohtani least expected, not because it was unpredictable by accident, but because it was designed to be. It landed exactly where the data said it shouldn't. And for a fraction of a second, Ohtani's timing, that extraordinary, almost mechanical timing that makes him so dangerous, was just slightly off. One pitch. One disruption. Barely visible to the casual eye. But the trap had been set. The count moved in the pitcher's favor. And that was exactly where the Marlins ace needed to be. Because everything that followed was designed to flow from that first moment of doubt. In baseball, doubt is not dramatic. It doesn't announce itself. It settles into a batter's mind quietly, between pitches, in the half-second of stillness before the wind-up begins again. And once it is there, even the greatest hitters in the sport have to fight against something that has no physical form. Ohtani stood in that box after the first play, and the stadium felt the shift before it understood it. If the first play planted doubt, the second play confirmed the strategy. This is where the Marlins ace revealed exactly how deep his preparation had gone, and exactly how little margin for error he was giving Ohtani to work with. The second play built directly on the first. It used the count, the situation, and, most critically, Ohtani's own adjustment as a weapon. Because Ohtani does adjust. That is one of the things that separates him from nearly every other hitter in the game. He processes what a pitcher is doing in real time and recalibrates with a speed that makes prolonged success against him so rare. The Marlins ace anticipated that adjustment. He had studied not just Ohtani's tendencies, but his tendencies when he adjusts. He understood that Ohtani, having seen the first play, would make a specific kind of recalibration. And he threw the second pitch directly into that recalibration, into the space where Ohtani's adjustment was moving, and took away the ground Ohtani thought he had found. The result was the kind of play that makes entire dugouts go quiet. Not loud. Not theatrical. Just, conclusive. 2 plays in. The Marlins ace had taken one of the most dangerous offensive presences in baseball and made him look, for the first time in a long time, uncertain. That word, uncertain, is almost never attached to Shohei Ohtani. His entire presence at the plate is built on a kind of calm authority that borders on intimidating. He does not look uncertain. He does not invite the crowd or the opposition into his mental state. But in that 9th inning, after the second brutal play, uncertainty was visible. And Freeman, in the dugout, was already watching with an expression that told its own story. The third play was different. The first 2 were about control, about dictating terms and establishing dominance within the at-bat. They were tactical masterpieces in the context of a single confrontation between pitcher and hitter. The third play was about something bigger. By the time the count reached the moment that produced it, the entire stadium understood that something historic was unfolding in real time. The energy had shifted from anticipation to something closer to collective breath-holding. Every person in those seats, every viewer watching from home, sensed that this moment would be remembered regardless of how it resolved. The Marlins ace wound up. The pitch came. And what happened was the kind of play that does not require slow-motion replay to understand. It landed with an immediate, undeniable clarity. 3 brutal plays. Complete. Finished. A statement that could not be walked back or reinterpreted. Ohtani, Shohei Ohtani, two-way generational talent, the most compelling player the sport has produced in decades, had been handled. Completely and without apology. The stadium processed it in near silence for a moment that felt longer than it was. And then Freeman moved. This is the part that matters beyond the box score. Freddie Freeman is not a reactive player by nature. He is measured. Experienced. The kind of veteran presence that teams build their culture around precisely because he does not let individual moments destabilize him. He has been in too many of these situations, too many high-pressure innings, too many playoff atmospheres, too many moments that felt enormous and turned out to be just another data point in a long career. He does not react instantly. Not usually. But this time, he did. What Freeman did on that field in the immediate aftermath of the third brutal play was not anger. It was not frustration. It was not the kind of visible emotion that makes highlight packages and generates controversy. It was something more revealing than any of those things. It was acknowledgement. Freeman reacted the way a veteran reacts when he sees something that genuinely impresses him, even when that something has just been done against his team, against his teammate, in a moment where the Dodgers needed a different outcome. He reacted the way a player reacts when the game shows him something he wasn't fully prepared for. That reaction, lasting only seconds, communicated everything about the state of the Dodgers in that moment. Because if Freddie Freeman, a player who has seen everything, is visibly moved by what the Marlins ace just did to Ohtani, then what just happened was not a routine at-bat that went wrong. It was something that this Dodgers team, with all of its depth and talent and preparation, did not have a complete answer for. That is a significant thing to admit about a franchise of this caliber. And Freeman's instant reaction admitted it without a single word being spoken. Every great player has these moments. The moments that remind them, and everyone watching, that greatness is not a permanent condition. It is something that has to be earned and defended against challengers who are also preparing, also studying, also working in quiet rooms to find the edge that the scoreboard hasn't reflected yet. The Marlins ace found that edge in a ninth inning that most people expected to be routine. For Ohtani, the question this moment raises is not whether he is still the player he has been. 3 at-bats in a 9-inning game are not a verdict. They are a data point, a valuable, uncomfortable, necessary data point. The question is what he does with it. Because the history of Ohtani's career is, at its core, a history of response. Every time a challenge has been placed in front of him, injury, doubt, transition, expectation, he has not simply met it. He has processed it, absorbed it, and returned to the game at a level that made the challenge seem small in retrospect. The Marlins ace gave him a new data point on that mound. What Ohtani does with those 3 brutal plays, how he studies them, how he prepares against that kind of sequencing in the future, how he walks into the next at-bat in a similar situation, will say more about who he is than those 9 innings combined. The 9th inning ended. The game moved on, the way games always do, forward and without pause for reflection. But what happened in those 3 plays did not move on with it. It stayed, on the faces of the crowd, in Freeman's instant reaction on the field, in the quiet that settled over a stadium that had been expecting something different. The Marlins ace walked off that mound having done something that very few pitchers in this league can honestly claim. He walked into one of the most hostile environments in baseball, against the most scrutinized player in the sport, in the highest pressure moment of the game, and he executed. Completely. Brutally. Without hesitation. That performance deserves to be seen clearly, not filtered through the disappointment of a Dodgers loss or the discomfort of watching Ohtani struggle. It deserves to be recognized as what it was. A masterclass delivered by a pitcher who prepared for exactly this moment and arrived ready to live in it. Freeman saw it in real time and could not hide his reaction. Now the rest of baseball is seeing it too. 3 plays. 1 inning. And a statement that no final score can fully contain.